Happy New Year. First video of 2021. Well, that I'm uploading anyway. Let's see how this year goes. I hope all of you had a really good Christmas, holiday, and New Year's. With everything that was going on in the world throughout the entirety of 2020, I really do hope that at least your holidays were good. Anyway, moving on. Let's not drag that on. I don't expect this video to be a long one, since I've technically already covered her. Today's video is Sirene Ancre's second. More specifically, it is the profile of her after she died and took up residence in the doll. I'll touch on her life like this, and more specifically, to be more specific, as I said, her life after her death, as strange as that sounds. Now, I do know that I lightly touched on it all, but when she died, she didn't move on. She was approached by who would become her mentor just after her soul left her body, and they gave her a choice. Either she could move on, go to where her soul was meant to go, or take up some rather critical work. Sure enough, she signed the contract she was offered, becoming an order member. Now, she could remain in this realm, albeit on a different plane, and watch over her 2 children. Although she did quickly learn that Vanessa didn't need anyone watching over her. Anyway, some information about the work she does. As I said, she is an order member, part of a large collection of souls that make up the Order of the Sand. It's a group that is run by Kronos. Well, not really. He leaves that to those that are higher ranking within the order. He's the owner, but largely hands off. That takes place of the Sandmen in this world. They are the ones that watch over, protect, and maintain the Dream Realm. It's far from an easy task. It keeps her very busy, at least at first, but she has no issues with it. After a few decades, she found herself with more free time than she had expected to have. So she made it a point to find something more to do. And she made sure to reconnect with an old friend throughout the years as well. Now, she wanted to use her time to help. And it wasn't hard for her to figure out either that that's what she wanted to do. She'd been watching the dreams of one child in specific. Said child was extremely alone, seemed to be sheltered, a shut-in. She had a hard time with connecting with basically anyone. So, Sirene returned to Vincent for help. She knew that his sister was the one who maintained the council, the Mage Council. His sister is the one that is basically the ruler of the governing body pertaining to mages. And she also knew that Vincent and his sister had access to a lot of mana relics. And as a result, maybe one of them could help. So she requested Vincent's help. He went looking through, and he actually did find something. It was an old doll that was used in ancient rituals, but the mana that was within her had long since gone. All it had left was the possibility to be possessed and used for an extended period of time. In this world that I've crafted, in essence, if a soul were to possess an item, their soul or the item, or both, would end up degrading over time. And sure, it would work for a bit, maybe a year or 2 before it started, but it wouldn't take too long once it started to degrade before one or both are lost. Whether it's only one of them or both of them that are affected is dependent on the soul and the willpower and strength and all of that. I'm not going to get into that. It's really not applicable to Sirene. Anyway, this doll that she was given for this was able to use basically indefinitely. It had a charm etched into the clay that was used to create it. It's not visible. It's not something you can feel. It's basically a protective layer from the degradation. Anyway, moving on. Sirene approached the little girl in her dreams first before letting her know that there was a doll waiting for her. And even then, it took a bit before she let the little girl know that the doll was alive, was able to move, and able to communicate with her. Surprisingly, the little girl took it rather well. It surprised Cyrene more than she could actually properly express, enough that she had to do a double take. However, she was certainly not one to complain when things were going well. The pair ended up connecting on a far deeper level than she had expected, and it did so much good for the girl. The little girl opened up. She had a chance to finally open up to someone about every damned thing, and no one thought anything of it. She was talking to her doll. She was a little girl. It was something that little girls did. Nobody thought a thing about it. Cyrene stayed with that family for generations. The doll she inhabited was less hidden, less kept as a secret with every generation, and it eventually got to the point where she was acting as a live-in maid or nanny for the household. While in the doll, she took the name of Serenity. She also took on a more sweet, innocent, and kind persona anytime she was inhabiting the doll. The main reason why she did that is because she didn't want her history to come bite her in the ass, as she was a dark elf and she knew that they didn't have the best reputation. So she tried to hide her past, her history a bit. Now, there was only one issue that Cyrene really had with the doll. Naturally, the elf stood at about 180.3 centimeters, roughly 5'11". The doll, meanwhile, was at 81.28 centimeters, 2'8"-ish. While she understands and accepts the height difference, it does not, at all, mean she likes it. However, she does like how the little ones, the children, seem to like her height, and how they often grow to be taller than her rather easily and quickly. Some, of course, were cruel, and over time her body ended up sustaining enough damage that she was essentially tossed aside. Over time, she was less needed, less required by the children, and in the end she found herself tossed in the trash like yesterday's waste. Or rather, the doll was. Cyrene witnessed it and collected the doll before trash was collected, though, allowing that form to continue to exist and live. However, with how broken and abused the doll was, Cyrene was able to possess it, yes, but she couldn't move for fear of breaking it more. The doll was kept and passed around again, sold a couple of times as a collectible as well, before being found on the side of the road in a box, broken to a rather immovable point. However, that state wasn't going to stay or remain the current truth. She was found by Kaylin Kixies, and yes, I will most likely have a video for her later. Anyway, Kaylin was a recent Harvard law graduate who had played around with some ceramics in the past. She had access to, in essence, a kiln, so she figured, why the hell not? Plus, the pink-eyed and white-haired doll she found was too pretty to let fall into absolute ruin like she was going to. It took a lot of time, effort, and money for the quality of clay to fix the doll. But with the help of someone that she had met through a previous client of hers, Raquel Firen had no issues creating a kiln-like appliance with her mana for Kaylin to bake the clay on the doll. Linked to Raquel in one of the cards. Raquel's information I don't think is in her profile, like in the video, but in that video there's a link to her Toy House profile where you can read up on her. As Kaylin was repairing the doll during her downtime, Cyrene was watching over her, well, when not working on her order duties. She got a good handle on who the two who lived there were. I won't really go into that in case I'm doing videos for them, and let's be real, I probably will. Plus, this video is focusing on Cyrene/Serenity. Anyway, after the doll was repaired, it was, well, new. The clothing was absolutely destroyed, and as a result, Kaylin put her extremely lackluster sewing skills to work. Now, Kaylin herself had a preference for punk or gothic aesthetics, so she tried her hand at a look that fits. After she finished, she dressed the ball-jointed doll, only for Cyrene to possess it again, bringing it to life. Now, of course, this outfit that I'm drawing now is just her standard outfit later on. It is by no means the first thing that Kaylin creates for her. And yes, Kaylin sewed her current as well. Basically, any clothing that Serenity has, Kaylin sewed. Kaylin was stunned silent as the doll greeted her and introduced herself as Serenity. She didn't give a lot of information, claiming that the damage altered her memories. She was hiding her past, and Kaylin recognized that. Thankfully, the lawyer didn't question it, realizing that it would likely be better to not. She hoped the doll would reveal more with time, though. Serenity became a rather beneficial resource in the house. She acted, again, as a maid, and a bit of a confidant for the two who lived in the house. Both were busy, so having someone to help out around the house was most definitely appreciated. Now, I feel like I should clarify. When Cyrene is in the doll, so when it's Serenity, she takes on the role of a maid or a nanny, not because she feels subservient, but because she honestly just wants to help. And in a lot of cases, childcare or helping to cook and clean is just the easiest way to help. So she happily does it. Eventually, Cyrene did come clean with Vincent about what all had happened to her. Once she learned that Kaylin knew him, that is. He was, of course, thrilled to speak with his old friend again. She did have him swear to silence, though, as she didn't want Kaylin and Renee, Kaylin's other half, to know who she was. At least, not just yet. She would be lying if she said she wasn't scared of how they would react, especially since they had had dealings with Vanessa already in the past. Vincent, of course, agreed. He didn't like it, but he did agree to her terms, as he could understand her reasonings. Alright, I've rambled on enough. I do, of course, still need to finalize some details, like, for example, how Cyrene reveals to Kaylin and Renee who she is. That I haven't quite figured out yet. I mean, I've toyed with a bunch of ideas, but I mean the canonical way. So, there are a bunch of things that still need to be finalized, but this is a decent chunk of her story that won't be changing much. There is a lot more, like how she ends up romantically and emotionally involved with Kronos and takes on a pupil within the order as someone did with her. There is enough that I might do an update or an expansion video on her in the future. And yes, when I say Kronos, I am talking, time Kronos. I touch on a lot of different mythologies in this series, this world, this collection of characters I have. Can you tell I like to create characters? Anyway, next week's video is going to be a DeviantArt review, and after that will be another of my vampire characters. And with that, I'm going to end it here. I'll catch you on the flip side. Stay cool, cats. This is Amber, out.